Kristi.
All right.
Okay, so
You're a little bit frozen on my side, but
am I frozen? Let me get out of here because I can look at different
there you are.
okay. And you can see me?
I can, yes.
Okay, wow. Okay, well, I'm not gonna mess with anything. As long as you can see me and like I can hear you, but it's like frozen on my side. So as long as you can see me, I know we're good. I just want to make sure I'm not. And you can still see me?
I can, yes.
That's all that matters.
Great.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We are tuning in right now. I have an awesome, phenomenal person that has agreed to join us tonight. Her name is Miss Kristi Wray. Kristi is an advocate for farming. Her goal is to do some reshaping of the food system in Canada, but also while supporting the farmers as well. Part of her goal is to cut out a lot of the middleman and to allow farmers to be able to get fruits and vegetables at a fairer price, while at the same time helping people get better quality of foods that are homegrown and properly farmed. So without other ado, I want to introduce Miss Kristi. Kristi, thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yes. So what was your inspiration?
Well, I was always inspired by my surroundings. I grew up in an agricultural community, a very small town where, everything was accessible. I grew up in a cherry tree essentially. So, we had this massive cherry tree in our backyard. It's like 10 kids could actually go in this tree and you could reach to the very top to get the very best cherries.
Mm-hmm.
And we always had a garden, and my mom, she herself was always an advocate for organic and healthy food. So really, I would say my mom and my grandparents were absolutely my inspiration.
Wow. So you grew up around people that farmed and people that grew their fruits and vegetables. So you were exposed to that at an early age, and that became a good portion of your inspiration. So at what point did you decide this is what I have to do right now in this moment?
Well, it kind of came in a few different parts. It came
Okay.
when I was a single mom with my son, trying to get healthy food for him and just learning how to be a mom and do the best I could. And then I actually got remarried and had four more children all in a row. So my last four children are 3 years apart. So, having that many children and dealing with, like the constant needs of small children, I was like, I got to do the best I can. I got to provide the healthiest food possible. And I found it challenging living in specific areas. So I didn't, and even though like Grand Prairie, Alberta, it's very, very north and very cold, that's still an agricultural community, but you don't have fresh vegetables and you don't necessarily have fresh fruit and stuff. And I just thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. Right? I know how far from my home it is. It's a 12-hour drive. Why are we not providing this product to everyone we can as locally as possible? So, once I looked at it from that perspective and I thought to myself, how can I support this? I'm not going to be able to farm. I know that for myself. So I just thought, what can I do to create that, relationship, that connection for people? And this is how I came to Modern Farm Gate.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, explain to us or tell us about modern farm gates presently, right now. Talk to us about modern farm gates.
So Modern Farm Gate is an online e-commerce platform that is a marketplace for customers to buy direct from farmers. So we facilitate that relationship. And then what we do is we facilitate the farmers being able to sell their products, beyond the farmers market. And we also support farmers markets by, encouraging people to go out and connect with the farmer directly, have those relationships, and just really build that trust with the local farmers that surround them.
Wow. One thing that has been a concern of mine, and I've even heard people say it, that it's the food, it's the food, it's the food. Some of the food makes people sick, and it's like, I don't think enough people have been encouraged to even start little small vegetable gardens, or even if they don't start them, I don't think enough people support local farmers markets, or that they don't support enough of it of their own. So if it was a message of inspiration for you to give people, though, to encourage them to support the farmers or the farming system, what would that be?
Well, I think the number one thing I would say is that if the food is making you sick, then it's because it's industrialization and it's local farmers losing their farms because we don't support them. And they have no choice because of rising costs to them, and they just get outnumbered. So when we go home and we support our farmers and we get to know our neighbors, I mean, our neighbors could grow local veggies and we could grow something else and we could share and really like become that community again. And I really think that's a big part of what's missing. People don't really have that communication in their local communities anymore. And we're so far apart that we don't recognize that farmers are really good people. And if anything, they will keep you there talking longer. Right? So, and they have that really great ability to make you feel at home. And they're very honest about what they're doing. And if they're saying, like, I am working towards getting away from pesticides, I have to use pesticides right now because my soil's not very good and I'm doing the best I can, then they're doing the best they can. And we are doing the best we can by supporting them in every way possible. So if, bring it home is really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Wow, I thank you for that. My mother's parents, they were farmers. And I found myself one time talking to my aunt. We bought our house almost 2 years ago, and we was taught how to shuck corn, shell peas. I knew how to pick greens. We knew how to do things, but we weren't taught how to plant anything.
Oh.
So last year I started my first official garden, and my okra did extremely well. Okra and basil, I can grow okra and basil. Like, they did extremely well. I think I ended up like 2 little small tomatoes and maybe a couple of peppers and
Nice.
squash. It looked like some got a hold to it and ate it up. But also, what I can appreciate about that is I took pride in knowing that I started something, and I know and everything was started from seeds. So I didn't put all this extra stuff on it, and I took more pride in it. But also, something that helped encourage me was we've always went to farmers markets, but then when we moved to where we are now, we're not as near as we used to be. We had a farmers market not too far from where we live prior to us moving here. And it's just something I wanted to do. And you try to encourage people, to also take part in that. But for me, it was good therapy. For me, it was good exercise. For me, it was just something really good. And then when you read articles, though, outside of how I feel about me starting something, when I read articles and I watch things on TV, and you just see that there are a lot of farmers that have been displaced, and not per se displaced by weather. They have been displaced because, for whatever reasons, whether they're in competition with those higher bracket markets or whatever it is, I think that the message, enough people are not advocating for them. And I do want to thank you and your platform for what you are doing, because more people really need to hear that it's important to do. And honestly, I know consumers talk about the cost. I don't see much of a major cost difference in going to a farmer's market versus going in the, grocery store. So
Mhm.
for those who may say, well, it's costs a little bit more, or it's this and it's that, what would your message be to them about that? Because we always want to talk about the consumers. We love talking about the cost, and I haven't seen a major cost difference when I go to the farmers market. So it's not like I was paying more money.
Yeah. Well,
But
I can see both sides of that perspective.
mm-hmm,
I agree that at times farmers markets can be more expensive, but
mm-hmm,
you're also looking at farmers who maybe have an acre of land, right? So their cost to produce that food for you actually is more because they have less access to the amenities that the larger farms do. But then again, like when you look at the grocery store, like I mean, the argument could be, why would you give it to the grocery store instead of the farmer? Right? So, I think it's really important to remember that you're supporting somebody who's trying to do like, trying to do something really wonderful for the world. And I agree with you. I love the statement that you just made about how proud you are, that you grew the food yourself. And I mean, when you talk to a farmer, they're really proud of their products and they really bring it home and they love what they're doing. They actually, like so many farmers I know, are so determined to bring you the best product that that's actually how they end up losing their farms, because they're so focused on bringing the best products possible that they actually don't necessarily focus on the business end of things. So, I've seen farmers who's like really, they bring their products to market and they're so far undervalued that they actually, they can't afford to keep going. And some have to start that way. But then when you look at the grocery store, like they've wasted so much food because they won't take apples that are a little bit misshapen, or like, they half the food actually does gets thrown in the garbage because it doesn't get bought and doesn't get eaten. And then you look at a farmer's market. So if you were to actually support the farmer's market 100%, they could actually grow to the market size. They could know approximately how much, and our food waste would be so much less. So there's so many aspects of that we could really say, like, it's so much better to go directly to the farmers, because then they know what everybody does need, and we can support them by supporting their business, and then they can get some help, they can get more access to business tools, and then we could have beautiful neighborhoods with, like, food gardens and foods on the streets, and really, like, there wouldn't really be that level of, of, I guess, definition of who has food and who doesn't. I think it would make a huge difference. And there's
uh,
also, like, just to bring that note home
uh-huh,
on what you made a point about being in the cities, there's
uh-huh.
lots and lots of farmers who do deliveries direct from the farm. And there's lots of companies now that are starting to work with farmers to actually bring their farm fresh goods directly to doorsteps. So I'm loving that aspect of things. Just to give you a little shine of hope there.
I love that as well. One thing that I admired during COVID, when we was couldn't go anywhere,
Mhm.
um, people started doing things, including container gardens. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people did it, but I saw it more where I lived, and that was just like not normal in the area where I live. People do farm and people grow gardens, but you have more people, of course, that will grow gardens who would live what we would say on the countryside and not per se in the city limits. More people got in tune with that. And another thing I can admire, especially about you being such an advocate for farming and the farming industry and farmers, is more, it appears to be, and I could be wrong, but it appears to be that more people are truly willing to take more consideration of the foods that they put inside their bodies. And it's almost like it's a movement that's been going on that's, I'm sure, started before COVID, but now it appears to be that it's just becoming more massive and more massive. Like even with TikTok, you have people showing you basic farming things. I've joined gardening groups and farming groups, and I probably would have never even thought to even be a part of these type of groups, because it's not my per se things that I would have normally watched on TV previously. But however, some of the movement is occurring. So what is it outside of the support that the farmers need? What outside of, well, we know we need to shop with them, but we also in a day and time where we have the internet and we have social media. So as well as us shopping with the farmers and supporting the farmers, what more do you think people could do as a collective to be even in more support of that, along with shopping with the farmers, or utilizing them for their services?
Well, I think that the number one thing I see personally is that there's so much division about food in general. So like, there's people who are vegans who are absolutely like fighting against beef. And then there's, the beef farmers who are angry with the vegans because they're talking about, the products that they sell. And I think that we just need to come together. I really do. I think we need to come together and find some common ground and say, this is food. You know what I mean? Like we all need to eat, and we all are given the opportunity to choose. And we are very, very lucky and privileged to have the resources that we have. Let's just have a common conversation about the fact that we all want to be healthy. Like there's so many unhealthy products on the shelf. Let's get those off the shelf and let's put the healthy products on the shelf. Let's make sure that we're buying healthy food and making sure that everybody has access to healthy food. That's another big thing for me is that, you see all across America and across Canada, these food programs that are popping up in schools because the children do not have access to healthy food. And I would say if we were all to have one conversation, that should be it. Let's make sure that our children and the people of our nations have access to food. I would say is my number one. And those farmers really are, they're the ones providing it. To bring that conversation to a reality point, I saw a few years ago, and it actually just got brought back up in another interview I just watched, where this girl had gone to the grocery store and she was advocating about, why are you killing animals when you can just go to the grocery store and get what you need? And I think there's actually a reality check where people don't actually know where their food comes from. So part of what we're getting people to recognize is that, food comes from farmers, you know what I mean? And the grocery stores don't provide that. And when we look at it from that perspective, okay, so let's get some education, let's get some perspective, and really give everybody the opportunity to understand the whole conversation.
I love that. And you just said something that I was going to bring up. It's like things are not incorporated enough in the school curriculums, because I can remember when I came through school, we learned how to make little ice cream in like a bowl and a can that vegetables probably had been in. We learned how to start certain things. I just can't, but I can remember doing those minor things, just, at least starting something from a seed.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's almost like it needs, in my most humble opinion, and I don't write curriculums or anything, but to me, it almost feels like it needs to be incorporated as well in the curriculum to help introduce also to the children that you actually can have a little bit more control over the foods that you choose to bring inside your home. And I also like the way that you explained that people need to have a common ground. You know, I may say potato, you may say potato. You may prefer beef, I may prefer chicken, which I probably prefer the beef. You know, somebody may prefer bananas and the next person may prefer apples. So I do like the fact that you acknowledge that everybody deserves to eat and we all have that preference, but in us choosing our preferences can still be done in a healthier manner, and we can still help support those who are ensuring that not only that we have a more quality of food, which will help us have a quality of life, it also ensures that like the farmers look out for us, we're looking out for them if we're dealing directly with them, because it does cut out a lot of in between. And I don't think enough people look at it like you just broke it down. I don't think, even myself, I've never taken into consideration when I go to the store that this farmer took a big cut to get their items here. And we never, and I don't even think people even take into consideration that like they may not sell a beat up can of canned beans. I don't think we even take into consideration that when they bring the food in, if it's not looking presentable or if it's whatever, then a good bit of it gets tossed away. And
Yeah.
I don't think enough of us as people truly take that into consideration in this era of convenience for those people who are on the go and so busy and I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. What would your message be to them?
Well, I think time is what you make it, right? So, I mean, even though we all have busy lives, and I have 5 children, so I completely understand. I'm running my own business. I have the utmost respect for that. Everybody with a full-time job, I mean, I absolutely admire that, trying to raise children and trying to do those things. We do need to, we need to make the time. We get to take that time, and it can be family time. It can be incorporated into your weekend, and it can be incorporated into your lifestyle. So, actually, when you look at that from the perspective of, like, the future of your children's education, you know, there's quite a number of high-end private schools that are now actually incorporating gardens into their school curriculum because they know how important it is for those children to understand where their food is coming from and what it is to grow food and what it is to understand the chemistry of food. There's actually so much education in food and the way it's grown and the way that we develop it. And I think it's really important for people to recognize that. But there is a lot of respect for people who take the time, and I do think that the farmers markets have been such a huge asset, and local retail stores that are actually providing local groceries. There's such a revolution going on right now with the small retail stores. I absolutely adore it because it gives the farmers a chance to sell into inner cities, and then it gives inner city people more of an opportunity to buy local, right? So there's this, to me, it's wonderful to see that popping up now. So I'm very excited about that.
So do you see outside of the farming industry within, well, do you see within the farming industry, does it appear to be also more younger people who may be out of high school? Does it seem to be that there are younger farmers, or do the farmers that are already farming, does it appear to be that they have, how many young people have you experienced to have you seen? And I know you come from a family of farming, and I'm sure there are certain things that your children are being rooted in and raised on. I understand that part, but with the farmers within your network, do you see that there are a good amount of younger people, or maybe that more and more younger people are possibly coming on board with that?
There's some really phenomenal programs to support that. We are seeing a huge gap between the generational farmers. We're losing a lot of our older farmers. But I think that we are coming into a place now where lots of younger people have actually gone into farming. There's a huge number of younger people going into it now, and I love seeing that because there's such an ideology around, this education that we're getting, and farming is bad and it's such a bum's job. And like, what I would say about that in general is that yes, it's a fantastic job. Like there, dirt on your hands actually makes you healthy, and younger people are recognizing that. Putting your feet on the ground in the dirt and grounding yourself and connecting with the earth. And there's so many people in, like, my son is 24 years old. His generation, there's so many kids that are going, like, looking to advance into the farming industry. I do find it's challenging for them financially to get into there, and I think that's our biggest barrier right now. But I do see a lot of that younger generation wanting to be farmers for sure.
There has been this thing that started pre-COVID about the intergenerational, and what the intergenerational, some of the dilemma is bridging the older
Mhm.
with the younger. So if
Yeah.
you could say something to possibly help encourage the togetherness, the unifying with the older as well as the younger, what would that message be?
I think you got to give a lot of credit to generational farmers. My grandfather's generation didn't have pesticides. They didn't have machinery. They didn't have anything that we have today to make farming industrialized and convenient. And I think that that knowledge is absolutely mandatory going forward. If we ever did lose any of that industrialized typical farming that we see today, there would be a lot of us that would not be eating. So, the mentorship programs and like learning from a generational farmer and just recognizing that, they aren't educated, but they're so educated. They are not educated by the school system, but they have so much knowledge that, it would actually be a tragedy to have all that lost. So I think it's really important for people to recognize it in that way. I personally feel like they're more intelligent than somebody who's educated by, the school system, because they have skills that, some of us like me don't have. And those are the people that we cannot live without. Farmers are the one people that we cannot live without. So I think it's important to recognize that their abilities are beyond a lot of us.
Wow, wow, wow. So with that support and with us focusing on how putting more energy into their level of understanding, sort of say, and with you seeing a movement of younger people wanting to be interested in it, have you seen any uh outside of the schools that you have seen, are there any, is there enough, or do we need to try to focus on awareness for like maybe farmer mentorship? Is there is that something that maybe more people need to really encourage?
Not only would I encourage the mentorship, but I would encourage parents to start fundraising for greenhouses at school. I think it's a huge gap. I think it's absolutely mandatory. I think that, as we are seeing, and you're right, the pandemic has created a huge, huge awareness around the realities, and a reality check. There was no food on the shelves at one point there. So, I think, it was a beautiful opportunity to learn from. recognizing where we are actually at with our food system. And then, like just recognizing that mentorship, and they are willing to teach, and they are looking for people who are willing to learn. Farmers are having a very hard time getting staff on their farms to actually run the farms. So I think it's really important for people to, if they really wanted that opportunity, I'm sure they would not have a difficult time finding it. So, you know, it's as long as the farmers have the finances to support that, absolutely. And some of them are willing to just teach. Some farmers are they're so generous with their knowledge and their time. I've seen farmers just say, "Come and learn because I want this farm to go to somebody who cares," right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I've seen that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that everything, and I know parents don't want their children wasting their time, but to me, we go to school, people pay for trade school, that's still learning a skill. I
Mhm.
would go as far as to, for any parent that may be watching or eventually watch this, please take some consideration into just seeking out some farmers and allowing your children to learn something, because you can't put a price tag once you get the knowledge. It carries you through. Like
Yeah,
once you learn something, once I learn something, nobody can take that away from me. Now it's
that's
on
right.
me what I do with it. But part of me wanting to have a garden is because things that I just, when I was that age, I just kind of dreaded, like, oh, shelling peas and all this kind of stuff. And then I got older and it's something I really wanted to do. But once you get that exposure, once you get certain type of knowledge, nobody can take that away from us. And you made another valuable statement after the first few minutes. Communities and neighborhoods, we could be next door neighbors. You could be raising something, I could be raising something else.
That's right.
People can share things.
Yeah,
That's with no money being involved. It's the barter system.
that's right.
People used to survive off the barter system. And it concerns me because we're becoming a world, well, I can't speak for majority of the world, but there are so many people who are so focused on money, 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 but we're not focusing as much as we should, not just on survival, but we're not focusing as a whole enough. But it's more and more because I cherish you being here and being part of the farming industry so much. It needs to be more people coming together, knowing that this is deeper than survival. This is deeper than money. I want them to learn the skills because you need the skills. You need to know how to plant food or plant a garden, or you need to know how to grow a flower, or you need to know how to do these things, because that's truly not just how people survive, but that's how legacies over time were left with people. Like you grew up around it. You're able to share something with your children that money truly cannot buy.
I absolutely agree with you. I love that statement because there's something so genuine and authentic about children running around in the strawberry patch and eating strawberries as they go, moms and dads working together to go and take that home, and farmers used to come together and build each other a barn, and then they would all celebrate together. There was that really connected community that when somebody was in trouble, we all knew about it. And that's such a huge part of what we're missing in society today is that genuine relationship with one another. And once people start to recognize how much that means to them, like think of your best friend, but you know what I mean, like what if you had a whole community like that of people were just like checking on each other and feeding each other and making sure the elders were taken care of, like what an amazing world that would be again. And it would be almost more incredible. It would be like a Sesame Street. Like it would be this really incredible neighborhood where everybody is welcome and people want to live in, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
It would be. It's just, and that's why I really thank you, because these are more and more conversations that we have in private, but I'm thankful that publicly we're having this conversation, because sometimes people just need that little boost.
I agree.
Sometimes people just need to hear it in another aspect. And it is greatly appreciated, because I know that when something is instilled inside of you, no matter what we may think of it at that moment, eventually you'll be utilizing those things, and you'll realize that you was truly given something that was just so great. I have a niece and she's 8 or 9, and my sister, especially during COVID, with the school system and all that kind of stuff, the virtual stuff, and she was like, I have to let her go outside. She
Mhm.
has to go outside, and it would be a routine. Like, you can't just sit up in the house. You have to go outside, you have to go to the park, get out there in the yard with a little bit. This is the same sister that she's the one that told me to do okra, to make sure I plant okra, because she the one that told me okra. She said okra is the gift that keep on giving, and it sure kept on giving too. She was the one that said you need to plant some okra. And
Nice.
but she made sure though that she gets that. And I can just admire that, because we're so connected with our devices and they are good, but we have to know how to balance as well. And I think that it also gives a child something else to do. That child that may not want to play hopscotch, or that child that may not want to do that, get them into some type of gardening, or some type of farming. At
Yeah.
what era do you think slowed farming down?
Um, I would definitely say um, probably the people that are in the 50s and 60s, because everything became so convenient. Like my parents' generation were encouraged to go to the grocery store and make things convenient, whereas like they still have the skills to homestead, but they didn't really hang on to those skills because they didn't need to, right? You know, and like I really love what you're saying about that connectedness. There's like children actually have so much value. And there are studies that are proving, like, and I can't quote them, so please don't ask me to, but I have read studies now where children who have ADHD, who have all these different kind of types of issues going on, when they grow a garden, they have something they can connect to. There's something that can calm their mind, and actually it gives them something to care about, right? And there's so many kids with depression and stuff now. And that actually does hurt me. And you're right. There was so many kids over the pandemic that were stuck on a device. They were sitting there and they were, looking at their friends online. Like my son showed me one of these, apps, and he could see where all of his friends were, and he was the only one that wasn't in the group. And I thought to myself, how hurtful would that be if that was you and you weren't invited?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I just thought to myself, like, no, like there's, if there's a way we can create this, and children, can connect through gardening, and they can, give each other plants, and they can give each other little apples that they grew, or, tomato, or whatever that looks like, that is a relationship in itself. It's the gift of giving. And, growing a garden really is the gift of giving, because you end up with abundance, right? So it really does, proves to people how much we can share, and we really don't lose anything by doing that, right? So I love what you're saying. And I think that, we've been taught, my parents' generations were taught to lose that skill of homesteading, and we started to get disconnected there. But I would say my generation was worse, because we were the generation that gapped, playing outside when we were children. And then, by the time I was about, 25, we were fully in the computers, and we started to get more and more disconnected. So, I think that I think there's a great opportunity to still have those skills, and they're not completely lost. Lots of people still have them. So, you know, I think there's hope. I really do.
I want to thank you so much for just not just blessing us with your presence, but for your knowledge and for your urgency to support farmers. And we talk about advocating for all these different things. And I would love to just help spread more and more of the message as well. Before we took time off tonight, what word or what phrase or what would Miss Kristi say if she could encourage everybody in regards to farming or supporting the farming market?
Buy local and build communities.
I love it. I love it. Miss Kristi, thank you so much. You have truly, 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 truly blessed us tonight. Yeah, I've been sitting here sharing, so that's why I keep looking down. Is there anything else? Did I miss anything? Is it something you may want to say that I may not have quite asked about?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, first and foremost, for having me here. I am honored to be able to share, you know, my voice and our company with all of you. And you know, I think just the one thing that I'd really like to share is that you can take it one step at a time. You know, like give yourself the patience and the credit to say you can do a little bit at a time. You know, the grocery stores are convenient, you know, but you know, farmers markets are genuine. So, you know, even if you only go once a month or you can only go and grab a couple of things at the farmers market, you know, give yourself that opportunity to reconnect with your local farmers.
Thank you so much. I listen, I'm in some farming groups. I'm gonna share this video there too, because I do think it's something that is truly needed, not just for farmers, but for all of us. And the goal is to keep spreading the awareness and just keep getting the message out here. So I'm here to tell you that what you're doing is not in vain. It is truly a huge blessing.
Thank you.
Hopefully over the next couple of months I can get you back on again before the fall season kicks in, because we need more of these conversations, because this is truly what we need and this is truly what it's about. And I mean but you reminding us and reminding me in that moment, build communities, and we have to work on supporting each other more and checking on each other, and that right there says where your heart and your intentions are. And it's you're just such an amazing person. Tell everybody where they can whether you know the name of your platform, where they can find you, and all of that information, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It is my honor. You can find us at modernfarmgate.com and info@modernfarmgate.com for any conversations. We're always open for the conversation. We welcome people to reach out.
Thank you so much once again. I appreciate you. Thank you for allowing me this time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Bye-bye.